buy versus build in his mind is very different from buy versus build in my mind. JSW doesn't build its brand, then we will always have this handicap. If you look at the Indian economy today, we're give or take a $4 trillion economy.
Yeah.
In the next 10 years, I have no doubt that the Indian economy will hit 10 trillion.
Launching an automotive like MG is a flashy thing to do. It may be sound business-wise, but it's flashy.
Whenever I am lonely, whenever I'm in a new place, I just go to play a sport.
Yeah. Parth, this is such a pleasure. I'm so glad you decided to come on the show.
No, thank you for having me.
And I am going to bombard you with questions. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Parth, you went to boarding school, Seven Oaks. Incidentally, my nephew went there as well recently and loved it. You went to Brown, you went to Harvard. How did you manage to bring yourself back to the country when a lot of kids wanted to stay on, explore? You know, the US is the US.
Yeah.
Was it the fact that there was no real choice, like you had to come back and lead JSW Group eventually?
Yeah, it's actually it's an interesting story because I was in senior year of undergrad,
Yeah.
and I had actually got a full-time job at Deutsche Bank because I had done my summer internship there in investment banking, and then they made a full-time offer, and I was really exploring what to do. So I had applied to a couple of hedge funds. I had this full-time offer from Deutsche Bank. But sometime in February, March of my senior year, I was just like completely driven to come back to India. And I actually called my father and I said, Dad, I'm itching to come back and I really want to work at the business and I really want to join. And it was just, there was like some sort of a feeling I had. And I think deep down inside, I felt that India is the country where there is so much opportunity. I have such an amazing platform because of all the hard work that my grandfather did and then my dad is doing. So I was like, why not come back and be a part of such an amazing growth story? But he told me that, listen, this is your only time that you'll ever get to work abroad.
Yeah.
So learn as much as you can before you come back, because once you come back, it's very difficult to go back.
Correct.
So then I did work for 2 years. I worked in New York for a year and I worked in Tokyo for a year. And then I went back for my MBA to Harvard, and then I came back after finishing my MBA. But I think from the time I graduated Brown till the time I went to Harvard and graduated from Harvard, my whole approach and I think my whole thought process was, let me train myself to get back to India and contribute as much as I can here.
Yeah. But of course, when you came back, Sajjan was still very young. I mean, he's still very young.
Yeah.
So there's no question of diving deep into leadership roles at JSW Steel,
Right.
which is, still, I want to say, 90% of the group still in terms of...
Yeah.
So that was quite clear that
Yeah.
you were not going to come and dive into JSW Steel. So then how did you navigate?
Yeah, so when I came back from business school, there were a few choices I had. One was, let me join either JSW Steel or JSW Energy. They were the two listed entities of JSW Group at the time. So that was one option, and the other option was to do something different, to do something new. So I actually spent some time actually exploring the group. I was in the corporate strategy arm of the group and came across 3 of our loss-making businesses. So we had a cement business that was losing money. Our steel business in the US was losing money. We had a small IT company that was losing money. And I ended up going to Dad and being like, can I take over these 3 businesses because they're losing money? I don't think I can do worse than what's already happening. So plus if I can turn them around, I think it'll give me a huge amount of credibility and it'll also, internally within the group, and a lot of confidence that I can do I can do this. So So he was like, yeah, that's a great idea. Why don't you do that? And also when I was in business school, I thought of a new idea of getting into the paint business. So I was like, while I look after those three entities and build my team around that, I also want to get into the paint business, completely new. And he the board asked me what was the logic and why would I want to do that, and I explained the logic to them about why we should, as a group, get into paint.
I believe your professor in Harvard helped you structure this idea.
Yeah,
And
completely.
presentation, and you had some colleagues there.
Yeah, completely. So,
And you also turned around your cement business in 6 months.
yeah, so
Was
so
it?
so what happened was, so 2012 I graduated from Brown. I worked in a hedge fund in New York, which I didn't like at all. I just didn't have a good experience because again, I just wanted to do something related to the business that I was in, and I was feeling like I was that the group was in, and I was feeling I was wasting my time. So 6 months after I joined, I quit and was supposed to come back to India, but then got this opportunity to go and work in Tokyo for a steel company. They are JFE Steel, who are
Yes.
our partners.
Correct.
So I went there for 6 months, and then I had a year in between. So I was like, okay, I'm going to come back, apply to business school, and work at the group. That's when I actually chanced upon these three loss-making entities, took them over at the age of 23, and applied to business school. And cement I found the most interesting because I, as a person, genuinely enjoy sales and marketing. That's something that I truly like, and I was amazed to see that cement in India is actually sold as a branded. It's a branded sale. It's not a B2B sale as you would imagine it to be. People, individual home builders, actually pay a premium for the brand. So, and that's something that our team and in JSW Cement didn't understand at the time. So and our headquarters were in Hyderabad, and there was no real oversight from our Mumbai office or our headquarters. So I decided that I went to the board. I said, let's get some branding budget. They gave us. They were most confused as to why a cement company needs branding budget,
Yeah.
and I said, no, that's the way it sells. Got the branding budget, changed the team, moved everyone to Mumbai, and then it took us about 6 months to break even. And then the 7th month onward, we started making profits.
Yeah.
And then I went to business school.
Yeah.
So I stayed in touch with the business while I was there, but the new team that I had put together before leaving, they continued. And then one of the things, when I was discussing with my father was at the time was that, he asked me, what will you do at business school? Why are you going to business school? There's no need for you to go to business school. The learning you are having here, you'll never get there. So I said, no, Dad, I really want to go. I think it's very meaningful. And if I don't go now, I don't think I'll ever be able to go. And I actually want to go there to understand how businesses prosper, what businesses have done to fail, what do family businesses do, because they have a different family business council at Harvard. So I was like, I want to build that network. And so his whole point was that you must think of new ideas when you're there. So I met a very interesting Indian professor when I was at HBS in my first year. And first year at business school is all mandatory classes. You don't have a choice. Second year is when you get to choose your electives. So in my first year, I met this Indian professor, Das Narayan Das. He's like an institution at Harvard, and he's on the board of Tata and several other Indian companies. So I developed a relationship with him, and used to go to his office hours. And after a few months, he was like, listen, you're spending way too much time in my office hours. You can't do this.
Yeah.
I don't have so much time to give you. Unless you structure a course. So I said, what does that mean? He said, no, you can make a course, and as long as you get 4 other people from the business school to come, then I can actually spend a lot of time with you all and do a 4-credit class.
Wow.
Yeah, so which was awesome. And the class's subject was, which is the next business the JSW Group should enter. That was the
And that was the course.
that was the course.
Okay.
And I convinced 4 of my friends, 1 Indian guy and 3 Americans,
Yeah.
to join this. And the reason they all joined was because they all wanted to either do their own business or they wanted to get into private equity. So they were like, oh, this is very relevant learning for us.
Yeah.
And 5 of us did this course. We started with a completely blank slate. We studied like the strengths of the group, what is JSW good at, what are we bad at, what are allied industries, and then we zeroed in on paint. And the course actually ended with 5 of us and our professor interviewing 4 potential CEO candidates for the paint business.
Wow.
And we ended up hiring our CEO, Mr. Sundareshan, sitting in Boston on a video call, and then graduate and come back, and we started the business.
So business school does come in handy for some.
I think so. I think so. I always get this question, was it worth it? And I say it was absolutely.
You enter JSW Group. It's already a substantial conglomerate in a sense. Not a conglomerate, but it's a huge group already. You come in as a fresher. You're starting new businesses. You're turning around non-profitable businesses. But there are people there who've been there for years, right? How do you establish credibility? Like you said, you turned around one of the businesses, but you're still navigating across teams of people in management positions that have been there for years and who might look at you with a little bit of skepticism and perhaps even a little bit of anxiety.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that there were some people who were a bit. I got the feelings many times when I was in a meeting room that my opinion was being considered only because I was the son of the chairman and the founder of the group. And that really it really took a lot for me to really understand when to speak about certain issues, when to really fight for certain things, and when to let certain things go. And there was a huge cultural learning for me as well, because and I'm sure for the leadership team at JSW also, because here's a young guy coming out of living 10 years abroad, never really having worked in India before, never really having seen the struggles of the group before, because the group really struggled in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like when I was growing up in Mumbai, I remember seeing my dad really work and struggle at the group before it really turned around and became what it has become. So they were like, this guy's never seen any of those days, and he's talking. So I think the balance that one had to really that I had to really deal with or really solve for was really respecting the wisdom that was in the room, giving my point of view as to why I think certain things need to be done differently, and giving it certain amount of time for them to really understand. So if it didn't happen in one meeting, if it took 10 meetings to like make someone come on board, then I would wait for those 10 meetings to take place and for the other person to get convinced, okay, that there is a merit in this. Or many times I would just go with what they would say, and if it didn't work, then I would be like, listen, we've tried this now let's try it in a different way, let's try it in my way. And they were like, okay, fair enough, you gave this a go, now let's give your idea a go. So I think that maturity got created, and I think it's still not easy. Like it's been 9 years, but I'm still learning every day, and there's still a lot of more experience in JSW than what I have. So
was there advice that Sajjan gave you when you were entering? The do's and don'ts?
I think the main thing he told me was that you must learn from your own failures. He always said that I'm always there for you. Whenever you need my advice, I'm always there. But you need to learn in your own way. The thing he told me the most is that just give people respect. Don't push your weight around. never show frustration, never lose your cool. Be calm and respect people, and then people will respect you. And I think the advantage I think I had, and I think it's all because of dad and mom, is that they gave me a chance to develop my own businesses. So I think it would have been a lot more difficult for me if I had to join a business in which my father was actively involved.
I hear you.
Because he was absolutely not involved in cement, absolutely not involved in paint, absolutely not involved in sport other than watching the games with me. I think it was amazing because I got to build my own team and my own culture
Yeah.
within the group.
But you're not involved in real estate.
No. My
That's your
sister. My
right?
sister looks at it completely.
Yeah.
I'm just involved in making sure she gets the cement and paint that she needs.
It's all in the family.
All of the family.
Yeah. So, you are obviously different to your father. He's always been such a risk taker. If you see the trajectory of the group, I mean, that man has taken some great risks.
Yeah.
Some have paid off, some have not. But I think for the most part, they've been calculated good risks, which have, bode him well and bode the group well. Reasonable amount of debt on the books, but he loves his inorganic growth.
Yeah.
It's worked out well for him. Do you think you are similar in ways, or do you have a different style of thinking about strategy and growth?
No, he's a risk taker,
Yeah.
and I would classify him as a nation builder.
Yeah.
His belief, his optimism, inherently in India, is something that we all kind of sometimes get even frustrated with. We're like, Dad, why are we expanding so much capacity when there's no demand? And he's like, no, demand will come. It's a matter of time. But if we are ahead of the game, then when the demand comes, we'll be better off than the competition. So his ability to take risk, his ability to execute is something that truly inspires me. I think where I'm different is that I think I'm a little bit more conservative than he is. I look at the numbers a lot. It's not fair to say he doesn't, but
No, but do you think that also comes from the fact that he came into the business with a lot less to lose?
yeah,
Right?
he says it.
You have a lot more to lose.
Yeah. But I think what he says, which is amazing, is even now he says that if things go bad, I'll go back and live in Hisar. I'm very happy to go and do that. But for me, I don't think I don't think I can go live in Hisar.
You're a Bombay boy.
Yeah, I'm a Bombay boy. But I think he also over time has become a lot more financially prudent in his decision making. But I cannot even imagine the kind of risks he took in his career. Like in 1996, to have the courage to build a steel plant when his turnover was 350 crores to do an investment of 3,000 crores. Means I can't even imagine. Someone tells me that, okay, my cement revenue today is 6,000 crores and I have to invest 60,000 crores. I'll be like, there's no way. I won't ever be able to take such a call. But he has taken those calls in his life. So I think the era of India was different then and is different now.
Right.
So yeah, but
Money is different today.
Money is different today.
And the economy is different.
Economy is different. Opportunities are different.
Yeah.
But I think I'm different from him in terms of the way I approach any inorganic opportunity. I think he's a lot more aggressive. He believes that buy versus build in his mind is very different from buy versus build in my mind. For him, he's achieved success. He's already India's largest steel producer, one of India's largest energy producers as a group. The group has become so large. He's a man, I would say, in a hurry. right? And whenever it comes to me, I'm like, I have time. I can build it. Why do I need to go and stretch my balance sheet and buy something which I can't afford to buy right now and take so much undue risk? If I can build it, I rather build it. Time is on my side. So I think that's where we sometimes differ.
But it's good to have that as well.
I think so.
Somewhere what you're saying also sits with him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You're obviously taking the group, at least the companies that you're dealing with, in a different direction, like a B2C direction, more branding. I think branding is important to you. Why do you think that helps, Parth?
2013, when I came back to India from Japan, the first project my father gave me was like, listen, TMT rods. Our TMT rods are selling at a 10% discount
to Tata's.
That's the first thing he told me.
But it's still doing worse.
At that time, it was 10%. Today, it's about 0.5%, the delta in price. And the first thing I realized, so I went to the market. I remember visiting the markets in Kerala, Tamil Nadu. I went as a mystery shopper. I went to our biggest retailers and I asked them that, मैं घर बना रहा हूँ और मुझे सरिया चाहिए, मैं कौन सा सरिया खरीदूँ? And the shopkeeper was like, listen, do you have a budget? So I said, no, I don't have a budget. I want the best. They said, sir, if you want the best, you have to buy Tata. So I said, no, what about JSW? They said, it's good, but it's not Tata. So I was like, wow, this is our biggest retailer telling me that buy Tata. So I realized that the power of the Tata brand in steel, or the power of Birla brand in cement, or the power of Asian Paints in paint is so strong that if JSW doesn't build its brand, then we will always have this handicap. And 10% in a commodity business like steel or cement is make or break. So that's when I realized that, JSW needs to build its brand. And we need to really focus on that. And that's when the whole initiative on sports started.
Yes.
And I always wanted to do something for sports in India. My father always wanted to do it. My whole family wanted to do something. But we could never justify why to spend so much money on sports, and that to non-cricketing sports. And what will be the benefit to the group? And that's when I tried to marry the two, saying that if we make this investment in sports, not only will we be doing something amazing for the country, but if the country sees this as a JSW initiative, the rub-off effect on JSW brand will be incredible. And that's what's happened. I think sports has played a huge role in improving the image of the JSW brand.
Yes.
In associating JSW with words like professionalism, with words like winning, with words like Olympics and all these things.
And patriotism, right?
And
when you're pushing athletes,
absolutely,
and pushing them in a way that you're supporting them infrastructure-wise and everything else, and sort of helping them win for India.
Correct.
You're creating for India.
Yeah.
And you're here to stay.
Absolutely.
And that's what you felt would help the JSW brand, even for steel, cement, paints. That's quite interesting.
Yeah. It's a different way of...
And I know that you've also looked at international models to sort of create a funding structure for sports. But that, we'll come to that. So you feel like this branding has helped you with cement and paints? I know that paints is also now what? Almost 3,000 crores, 2,500 crores. Cement is 6,000 crores in revenues. These are becoming reasonable money spinners of their own. I mean, obviously, if you look at steel, it's not. Then you've got your electric vehicles.
MG,
MG that you forayed into, where my son sang my son played
amazing.
the guitar at your program. But these are big strides in other directions. Why are you doing this vis-a-vis sort of focusing on the core business?
No, so I think if you look at the Indian economy today, right? And I last week we had a group from Harvard Business School had come to visit our steel plant in Dolvi, and then they came to the office and they asked me the same question as to why are you getting into these businesses? Many people see this as non-core to what the group is known for. And I said something. I mean, I believe that if you look at the Indian economy today, we're give or take a $4 trillion economy.
Yeah.
In the next 10 years, I have no doubt that the Indian economy will hit 10 trillion. And in 10 years from there, the Prime Minister's target is for India to become a developed country by 2047, which means $20 trillion economy. So in the next 20 years, we are looking at India's economy growing by 5 times. No other economy in the world is going to have this kind of growth. And the opportunity that this presents itself across the board is staggering. It's absolutely mind-blowing. Now, when you look at JSW Group and you look at our core strengths, what differentiates JSW from any other group in this country? I truly believe that that differentiation is our prowess in manufacturing. I believe that if you give JSW Group a blank piece of land anywhere in this country and you tell them to set up any manufacturing in any industry, we will do it at the lowest cost and in the fastest amount of time.
Right.
So, manufacturing presents a huge opportunity. Now, if I look at our steel business, if I look at our energy business, I think to a great extent the team has been very professionalized. It is running, it is growing. There is very little family involvement required at this stage of the business for it to really prosper. I think I'm sure my father would have things to say about that, but he's driving that, and and the team is very professional. So I felt that it's the right time for the group to branch out and to diversify.
Right.
Now, the automobile opportunity we felt was we feel is a staggering opportunity. Again, just some numbers. Today, India is a 4.3 million passenger vehicle market. China is more than 20 million. The US is more than 20 million, and India is number 3. Now, when the middle class of India grows from about 150 million people today to closer to 500 million, you can just imagine what's going to happen to the passenger vehicle market. And we also felt that the competition in automobile was not doing enough to get into EVs and get into new energy vehicles, and that's where we saw a big opportunity. And we felt that after our steel business and our power business, the automobile business actually has the biggest potential to be a large business for the group. Cement, yes, it's a good business. There's synergies with the group. Paint, again, there's synergies with the group. But these are relatively smaller businesses in number terms. If we can start scaling our automobile venture to get to 500,000 cars and 1 million cars, numbers where like Tatas and Mahindras are at today, those are massive, big businesses.
You are clearly a very big fan, as we all are, of the Tata Group, the Tata brand, the Tata businesses.
Yes.
I feel like that's a very big role model for you in a sense, in terms of at a group level.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're kind of wanting to go down that way.
I think,
in a sense,
I think. See, if as growing up, I always heard my parents always say that the group that they emulate and aspire to be is Tata.
Yeah.
Everything from our policies to our practices to our systems, we would always try and benchmark to Tata. And obviously in 1996 to 2005 for JSW Steel, there was only Tata Steel. It was like, okay, how do we get to Tata Steel? How do we get to Tata Steel? And then obviously for the foundation, it was Tata Trust.
Yeah.
For me, when I started sports, I was like, oh wow, look at what Tatas have done for Indian sport.
Yeah.
So Tatas for us has always been that group which we felt was very high on corporate governance, very high on ethics, very high on keep putting the nation first. And we felt that this is an amazing role model group.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, if you study the Tata Group a little bit more deeply, their biggest cash cow is TCS.
Yes.
Right. Which maybe that is one of the reasons why JSW got into IT at some point, thinking that Tatas have done it, why can't we do it? But I feel that our core strength is manufacturing.
Got it.
So services is something that we should not delve into because that's not something that today JSW has the culture.
Maybe the next
for,
generation.
Maybe. But I think that's the difference.
Yeah.
And I think we want to do things with a little bit more speed and urgency.
Yeah.
And I think that's the role that we are trying to play.
So now on sports,
Yeah.
which I know you love with every part of your body and mind. Yeah. I know you grew up representing India, or squash at some point.
I mean, I was top 8 in India, but never played for India.
Okay, so you're top 8 in India for squash. I know your father played squash, your mother badminton, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All that. So you grew up knowing sports, playing sports. It was part of the family, right? Then you wanted to brand build with sports. You needed 50 crores. The board told you, go find an investor for some amount of it and then we'll bankroll the rest. You found Vallabh Bhansali, who gave you a 5 crore check, which was a great start for you, and the board funded the rest. That was the starting point. That's the start of the journey.
Absolutely.
Tell me where you are now.
We are, I would say, we are the biggest spenders in Indian sport today.
Yes.
I think it's been an incredible journey. I remember the first check I got from Akash Bhansali.
Yeah.
That was probably the happiest day of my life,
Yeah.
other than obviously my kids and getting married. But that was, in my professional career, probably the happiest day.
Yeah.
Today, we have 6 centers across the country. We have more than 6,000 athletes who we train every single day across the sports of boxing, wrestling, judo, track and field, swimming, rowing, squash, and fencing. So we support athletes. Out of India's 117 athletes who went for the Paris Olympics, 42 were from one of our centers. 21 in Tokyo to 42, so we doubled. And and we had a role to play in 4 out of India's 6 medals in Paris. We are also, apart from the work that we do for the Olympic sports, we own Haryana Steelers in the Pro Kabbadi League, Bengaluru FC in the Indian Super League, Delhi Capitals in the IPL and WPL. We own Surma Hockey Club in the new Hockey India League. And then we have the Dubai Capitals and the Pretoria Capitals in the leagues overseas. We also have
Institute.
We have the Inspire Institute of Sport, which is one of the 6 institutes, and we've done private-public partnerships for the other 5. So today we have over 35 different corporates supporting one of our institutes. I think we are the largest CSR platform in the country, and JSW Foundation is also contributing more than 60 crores a year just supporting sports, non-cricketing sports in India.
And the rest of the corp is about 150 crores is
150 is the total spend. So we raise about 90 and we put in about 60. The reason the government has many times said we should apply for funding to the government as well. And the reason we've stayed away from that is because we don't want any government interference in anything that we do.
Yes.
And they understand that and respect that. Having said that, they have made a few of our centers Khelo India centers. So they do.
And given that you have an athlete like Neeraj Chopra that's come out of your fold.
Yeah. So Neeraj is just, Neeraj, we recruited him, or we spotted him in 2015 at the Haryana State Championships, and then the rest is history. He broke the junior world record in 2016. Then he won the Commonwealth and Asian Games. Then he won the Olympic gold. Then he became world champion, and now he won the silver. And I think Neeraj has. So the first success we got was Sakshi Malik.
Yes.
So
she was also a huge success.
She was huge. I mean, India won only 2 medals at the Rio Olympics, and she was one of them.
Yeah.
And before the Olympics, everyone was talking about the Fogats, and no one was talking about Sakshi. No one gave her a chance. In fact, Dad and I were the only people in the stadium from India when Sakshi won the bronze, because nobody has believed that she would win the bronze. Yeah, the flag that Sakshi was waving, I gave her that flag when she came, after winning the bronze. So that first medal gave us an amazing amount of confidence that the work that we're doing is in the right direction, and the support that we're providing to Indian athletes is actually making such a big difference. And then from Sakshi, it became Neeraj and Bajrang in 2021, 2020 Tokyo Olympics. And then from there, our support became more broad-based. And, we had a role to play in the 4 medals out of 6. But it's just made my belief in what we're doing much more. Today the Prime Minister of India knows the work that I am doing because of sports and because of Olympic sports. And I think for me, there's no greater feeling than to see India win a medal at the Olympics. And I think that everything else that I do in sports is okay, is great fun. But the true work is the work that we do for the Olympics.
But Delhi Capitals, that's more than passion for cricket. That was more an investment, or just sort of to have like a foot into that business.
Yeah, I think in India, if you are serious about building a sports business, and you're not in cricket, it's almost virtually impossible.
Yeah.
So when the opportunity came to take a 50% stake in Delhi Capitals, Delhi Daredevils at the time, we thought about it very long, very hard, because we were building a non-cricketing sporting platform in the country. But then, my discussions with Mustafa, our CEO, and my parents, with everybody, with Anushri, they were like, listen, if you're serious about sports, the only way to give visibility to non-cricketing sports is to own cricket and to use cricket as a vehicle to popularize other sports. And the way I look at it is, whatever profits we make in the IPL, we want to plow back into non-cricketing sports. And that's what we've been doing. So, plus, once you own an IPL team, it is incredibly addictive.
Of course.
And there is nothing bigger in this country than IPL.
Of course.
So
that's what Harjan said also.
It's nothing. So it's been incredible. We've owned it since 2019. Came very close to winning.
Yeah.
Lost in the finals. And
then this whole Rishabh Pant thing happened and all. These are all just, it's all part of it.
Yeah.
And I think you're just learning that all this is a part of it. And as you go bigger, IPL is the biggest thing you can do.
Correct.
In sports.
Correct.
So you'll have to deal with everything that goes with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because the rest of it is kind of...
Yeah, I think the only thing that competes with IPL is automotive.
Yeah.
I think I was blown away by... you can make a $5 billion commitment for a steel plant, or you can launch a single car, but the car will get the headline, and your steel plant will be some small article on page 6 or 7 of the newspaper.
So cars are. Again.
Cars are huge. So I think these are both highly public in nature, but IPL is as public as you can get. And because I'm so passionate in the stadium, I do something and it becomes news. So it's something you have to learn from.
But tell me, do you consider yourself as being like flashy as a human being? Buying an IPL team is flashy. How about that? If someone said that. Launching an automotive like MG is a flashy thing to do. It may be sound business-wise, but it's flashy.
Yeah, okay, it's a difficult. I wouldn't call Anand uncle flashy at all.
Right.
And he owns one of the biggest auto brands in the country.
Yeah.
So it depends. It's a big business opportunity.
Yeah.
But it's in the public eye. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't call myself. I wouldn't like to call myself or think of myself as being flashy as a person.
No, I'm only joking, of course.
But it is in the public eye. There's no doubt.
Yeah. So you have to tread a little more carefully now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Right? How do you've been born with an element of privilege, right?
Yeah.
As a lot of people have around you. how do you ensure and catch yourself in terms of keeping that drive, that hunger, that going?
I think one is, I think inspiration is, I live with my inspiration,
Yeah.
and I see the way he conducts himself every single day.
Yeah.
I think sports plays a massive role
Yes.
for me.
Yeah, what does it teach you about life, leadership?
I think sports is, for me, is a true reflection of life. If you win and you get overconfident, you will lose. When you lose, you get down. How do you build yourself back up? It teaches you about teamwork. That when even if you play an individual sport or a team sport, it is the team that makes you successful.
Yeah.
So for me, I think in my life, sports has played a huge role in keeping me grounded and keeping me real. Like in terms of fitness, in terms of activity. Like even today, like I ran the Mumbai Marathon this morning, and during that run, your everything flashes before you. The fact when you had that extra dessert, or when you were indisciplined during, had that extra drink, or whether you're sleeping or not sleeping, whether everything, your whole life comes back when you're playing, right? And I think for me, because I also lived in so many countries, I moved from India when I was 16 to boarding school, and then I went to the US, then I lived in Japan, then I came back to India. Whenever I am lonely, whenever I'm in a new place, I just go to play a sport.
Yeah.
And my best friends have come from sport.
Yeah.
My best release comes from sport. And even whenever I'm down in the business, like, okay, cement's not going well, or something's wrong with MG, or something's wrong in paint or steel.
You go play a game of paddle?
I either play or I review sports. I'm like, okay, let's talk about JSW Sports, what's going on. And the bounce back is just immediate, and it just releases something different in the body.
Imagine if you had to do nothing else. No cements, no paints, no steel, no nothing,
Just
and
sport.
just look at sports.
I know. I wish I was good enough in my life to be an athlete, because I think that would have been my dream life.
Yeah, I think for a lot of us actually. In terms of legacy, family business, succession, a lot of people have made a lot of mistakes along the way and created a nuisance going forward. Not because they wanted to, but because they didn't know any different. Is your family functioning differently? Is there a discussion as to, who's going to look after what sort of the untangling that's going to have to take place? Because there's a massive, massive corporate entity now with diverse interests, right? And many family members.
Right. No, I think the family, we are shareholders in the business. Whether the family needs to be running the business, that's a question for the board, and that's the question for, I guess, the family to take, whether we are the right people to run the business. Obviously, my father is there, my mom, my mother is there. They have built the whole thing, they've created the whole thing. So, they will decide what is there. But the way I look at it is, tomorrow, for example, if I have to join JSW Steel, for example, am I the right person to lead JSW Steel? That question is not very clear to me.
Of course.
And that question is something that I think needs to be deliberated by the board and by everybody in the family, outside the family, as to should we ask Parth to take over or not. I believe that my role would be to represent the family as a shareholder, and if at that stage they say that, okay, no, he needs to take over, the board says, okay, no, give it to Parth, let him take over and run it as the CEO or whatever, the managing director, whatever it is, that's a different discussion. So that's the way I feel about all the businesses that have been created by my father, whether it is the steel business, the energy business, the infrastructure business. That's something that tomorrow if I or my sisters and I have to represent the family on the board, that's fine. That's the role we must play. Whether we should manage the business, that's not in our hand to decide. That should be decided professionally. Now, am I the right person to lead JSW Cement? Yeah, I absolutely believe I'm the right guy. I created it, so why should I not be the right person?
Yeah.
Am I the right person to look after MG, for example? I believe I am. If I don't do well, that discussion can be had. But so that's how I look at it. I look at it as like is my sister the right person to lead JSW Realty? I think she's created it, so she is the person who should drive it and lead it. Or my other sister who created Museum of Solutions and Leap. Like I don't think anyone else would be able to do it. So I think that's where I draw the distinction, and I think my parents have been very clear to all of us as to how they see it, and how they want us to govern the trust afterwards and all of that, and they took all our inputs, and we've been very, very transparent, and they've been very transparent with us, and I think I feel,
So that's incredible.
Yeah.
Because a lot of families don't do that early on, because your parents are still young.
Yeah, I think
So
I
even
think
to
a huge
approach that
credit.
discussion of mortality and all that is a problem for Indian families. So it's incredible that that discussion has been had and those kind of agreements have been drawn up.
Yes.
In a sense, because that leaves even the shareholders quite sort of
Yeah.
safeguarded.
And I think
Of the companies.
huge credit to my mother, because my father, exactly what you just said, my father was like, no, we're still young, there's no
Yeah.
need to discuss all this, I'll decide when I want to decide,
Yeah.
like there's
Yeah.
no rush. But my mother was like, no, this is very important, this clarity is needed, you need to make sure everything is structured, I don't want any ambiguity with my 3 kids. Their relationship with each other is the most important thing to me, and
And she's a big proponent of female power also.
yeah, absolutely.
Like a lot of families, the women don't get any sort of corporate shareholding and
Yeah.
rights going forward, etc. I don't think your mother would have allowed that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think my mom, my sisters, Anushri, everyone have been fully involved in the whole process, and it's honestly been it's been a very, very good. And in fact, when I talk to some of my friends from HBS who are in family businesses, they're like, listen, what you guys have done, and what your grandfather did for his 4 sons, and then what your father has done for the 3 of you, is you guys are very lucky and fortunate that you all have they've had the foresight to think about all of you.
Yeah. Lastly, I remember seeing Sajjan with the kids, with 3 of you. I remember him being a very present father, always participating in things that you do, and very proud and very involved, and somehow building a very difficult business at the same time, and also being a very attentive spouse.
Yeah.
I remember that on all fronts. Do you also sort of take that leaf out of his book and sort of be a present father? Are all these things important to you? Spending time with your family, taking vacations, pursuing interests. Like I know you play padel and other sports. I do too.
Yeah.
Taking that time out for yourself.
I think spending time with family is the most important, and spending time with my kids, spending time with Anushri is something that I prioritize over anything else, because yes, work is important. Work is in many ways life, because when you're owning a business, you're thinking about it all the time. I know there's all these debates about how many hours in a week you need to work. And
it's
all of
such a
that.
useless debate actually, and it's so individual.
It's so individual, correct.
Yeah.
I completely agree. So I always like to do things with my children, like I I drop my daughter every morning to the bus stop, and take them for some of their classes. Try and get them, influence them a little bit to pick up some of the sports that I want them to play.
Yes.
So go on holidays, And we try and do, active holidays. So like recently we went skiing, so we're trying to teach them how to ski. So I think taking short breaks with them, spending quality time with them, spending time with them on the weekends is very important. I think what my dad did was completely ingenious. And I think what he did is he said, listen, I don't believe in having any holiday homes. So that was fine. But he said, I will build holiday homes inside the factory.
Right.
So whether it's growing up Vasan, then Vijayanagar, we have the most beautiful holiday homes there. So as kids, we would want to go to the factory on the weekend. And for him, and for my mom and him, it was amazing. They were like, wow, these kids are in the factory with their friends or with us. And that's how he would spend time with us. And then through sports, he spent a lot of time with, he tried to teach my oldest sister Coco Didi squash, then he taught me squash, then he would swim with my mom and my sisters, they would swim. And I think spending time at the club, spending time on holiday, spending time in the factory, that's how we grew up. And I think I'm trying to do it in a similar way, slightly different, times have changed a bit. But yeah, I think being present as a father, as a husband, as a son, I think, as a son-in-law, I think very important.
You think you've now really come into your own, Parth? Out of that Parth Jindal shadow, people have started taking you seriously in the group, your employees, the board at large, the corporate world at large in India. Industrialists, private equity players, investment bankers, friends, family, all of that. You think you're there, you're poised now there at a pretty good...
I that's not for me to comment on. I hope so. I think I'm doing the right things, and I think I'm working in the right way. Obviously, for big milestone for me is we just got SEBI clearance for the JSW Cement IPO.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. So that'll be my first business that will go IPO. And then, so I think so. I think. I mean, I hope so. But when people say, "Are you on your own?" or "Have you come into your own?" It doesn't affect or bother me that much, because I feel very lucky and proud that I am Parth Jindal's son, and I think that even if I just get known as that, I'm happy. So that's fine.
That's so lovely, Parth. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was wonderful.
Thank you.